Right then, lab coat time. Venturing away from the dyno with the lab coats. I'm feeling a bit queasy. But anyway, Audi TT diesel race car, which is missing all its front end at the minute, but it makes no difference to this test we're going to do. If anything, it makes it better, just because it looks very strange. So, big silly tyres, all that sort of stuff. But anyway, watch us race stuff if you're into that. But you might be here because of what we're doing here with this diesel test. So, we made a Facebook post probably, it's over a year ago now, it's got to be. And everybody went mental, sticking their opinion in what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, and how we should be doing it. And to be fair, at the time, I read every comment. So yeah, I had a look through then, and I had to sift through and do a bit of research. And at the time, it took me a long time to go through just to see what's what. And we've sort of come up with a rough idea based on what we've done before and what we think people want to see. So basically, we normally run these cars on the cheapest fuel we can get, which is normally the local Tesco's. So we've got a drum of that. So what we'll do, for ease, we're just gonna fill the tank up with a Tesco diesel that we normally do. It's in the tank, we can do what we need to do, and we can run it, no problem. The fuel gauge on that's pretty good as well, so we can see how much we've got in it. Then what we'll do, we'll swap to Shell, which just the normal Shell. I think the main reason we've chose the normal Shell is because that's sort of seen as the premium normal diesel. BP, Shell, sort of level playing field, could go to either. But the Shell V-Power diesel, the tuners, subjectively I'd say at this point, they think that when people have said it, which we don't know every customer that comes that's got different diesel in, but a couple of customers have said they only run it on Shell V-Power and they reckon that them cars seem to be a bit cleaner out of exhaust. So we shall see. I'm not so sure about that, but we'll see what happens. And then this got mentioned a few times, some HVO, Green D. I've seen this before. Our actual trailer come from a place that's what the race trailer, they sell that into truck companies and stuff like that, and I asked about it at the time and he said, yeah, people seem to like it. Now, the price of all these is all going up and down. When I first decided we were going to do this, it went into the fuel crisis, and just normal diesel were £2 a litre, or getting close to £2 a litre. Now that's sort of all sort of normalised, and we're at like 144, I think it's going to be for the Tesco, but we'll get the exact prices when we actually go to the fuel pump and get them. The Shell's going to be a bit dearer, and the V-Power's going to be a little bit dearer than that. And this Green D stuff, I paid, let me find it on here, I've got a little spreadsheet. I paid 36 quid plus VAT for that, which is going to work out just over 40 quid. So it's £2 a litre, basically, for that stuff, which, when diesel £2 a litre, that's not too bad. But recently, when I've looked at them, they're going for more like 70 quid plus VAT. So it's getting up there now, it's like £4 per litre. So I don't know if there's better prices. I can double check nearer on the day that we do the test, and then that's the fairest way of doing it. But we did struggle to get that in the fuel box. I think you can order it directly from them, but there's loads of been rebranding and stuff like that, even in this amount of time. So we'll see. But that is a full non-fossil fuel diesel. So even though they're all going to do the same thing, that couldn't be further from these things if you tried. Now, the cetane values and all that sort of stuff, we'll put them up in a table, but finding exactly what these are is quite difficult. It took a bit of digging, and I found that this is 55. The Green D HVO stuff, that's 70 cetane. So in theory, the cetane value, just a number that's how hard it is for the diesel to ignite, and higher the number, easier it is to ignite, and less ignition delay and all that sort of stuff. We can get into the scientific side of things if we really want to, or we can just put it in car and see what happens. But we're not just going to do what every test I've ever seen's done, and that's just put it in and look at what comes out the exhaust. I've got quite a lot of sort of equipment available to us. We've got the full dyno cell, so we can keep the temperature and everything consistent. Obviously, when it takes 2 or 3 days to do it, then things are going to change. So we will have to drop back. The reason why I want to leave it in the fuel tank of the car, we want to drop back to like, we've done 4 hours worth of running. Let's just go back to the normal diesel, see how that works. and then go from there. So that's the plan with that, and then you can always have like a control, like, right, we've done a few hours, run that. That's given the same results as it was before. Because if things are getting better as the day progresses, and then you put normal diesel back in, and it's already better than the other ones, then you know that just the conditions have evolved. But anyway, that's that. We might change the tyres to some that are harder than this when we do the test. So if you see some different tyres, it's not because we're trying to make things look different. Everything else will remain the same. The only thing we're going to change is the diesel, and we're going to control every variable that we can control. Some stuff will be out of our control, and if we see that, we'll mention it along the way. What we're going to be monitoring when we're on the dyno, we'll try and see if we can do it with the equipment we've got available, but we'll see how noisy it is, because that seems to be the big thing. Everybody we're talking about with the Shell stuff and all these premium ones, that they're quieter. The HVO, that seems to be the big selling point that they say. So we'll see. Then we'll just look at the exhaust emissions, so we'll be able to log the air to fuel ratio, so then if any of these are giving it any extra oxygen, which I don't think any of these can, then you'll be able to see that in the air to fuel ratio. We'll monitor the opacity, which is like you do when you do MOT test, a sticker probe in there, and that'll tell you how much smoke you've got, visible smoke. So hopefully I can get the opacity meter sorted for that. Then we'll be looking at the EGTs, so the exhaust temperatures. In racing we do it post-turbo, which is probably a more accurate way of getting an average, but not over the time, which will be fine for this, because we just want to know what the peak is over the run. But if you're actually tuning the car, you do it pre-turbo. But anyway, that's getting into nitty-gritty. Obviously, we've been a common rail engine, we can keep an eye on the fuel pressure, the fuel injection time, and obviously the quantity based upon that. So in theory, the tune's not going to change, so that should remain consistent. We can see if there's any variables there, and if we see a problem, then, or we see a difference, then we know it's happening straight away. I did want to do it with an older engine, and then we could start sticking some random crap in there and see what happens. But I think for this first initial test, let's do it with a car that we know is running perfectly, and we'll get the data that we want out of it. The other thing that we're going to get out of this, which I don't think anybody else has ever done, I've never seen anybody else do it, but these here, this is not the tool, but this is just the sensor. But this here is, and each one of these is £2,000 each or something like that, and I've got 4 of them sat there. So this is a cylinder pressure monitoring setup. So this is actually will replace the glow plug. So the good thing about this is we don't have to drill the head like you would on a petrol engine. The bad thing is when we're doing the starting, we're not going to have any glow plug. So whether that's a better test, I'm not too sure. It's pretty warm out there anyway, so it's not like it's winter. So we will look at things like startup and stuff like that, but I don't think we're ever going to get it to where it's flat cold with everyone. So it's not really a big concern that we're getting rid of the glow plugs, but it's also the perfect test could possibly be see what these are like. But if it were winter, then we'll see. Maybe we'll see which is the best and the worst, and we'll go further into that later on. So the one thing that we're not going to get out of this, which is what everybody talks about, and I'm still not believing a lot of what you see, is the fuel economy. Obviously on the dyno, our dyno's not the most technologically advanced one, and it's not got all the European driving cycle like some dynos have. So I think what we will do, once we've decided which is the best and which is the worst, we'll try and get 2 identical cars and go on a bit of a road trip and see which one's the best on fuel. Or we'll do some dyno testing and put a certain amount of fuel in and see how long it lasts at a certain amount of load. So I don't know. I think the fuel economy thing is very subjective. I think you put a fuel in and you want to see if it's better, then you drive differently. I think that's most of it. You only need a little bit of extra foot, and then you're going to use all your fuel anyway. So we've got them. That's sort of the simple test. Now we are going to make this a little bit more complicated. Let me just grab some things. You can stay there, Adam. So the big thing with all these fuels is these ones, they're the right sort of money. In theory, this has got more additives in that should make it cleaner and a slightly higher cetane. Everybody are recommending all there. This is my favourite additive. This one works, 40, this, that, all sorts of different ones. And when you look at what's in them, it's this stuff. So ethyl, hexyl, nitrate, cetane improver. That's what they've got in it, basically. And then kerosene, diesel, whatever, just to make it into, it's got a bit of that in, and then makes it into a litre bottle, and then you stick it in. Whereas that is the sort of pure additive that you want to stick in. So what we will do, I'm not sure exactly the way around doing it. The easiest way is going to be run it on that, stick a bit of that in, see what happens, run it on that, stick a bit of that in. I think that might be how we do it, whether that's how it gets filmed and edited and stuff like that. But we're not going to do any clever editing to make one thing work better than another. We're not going to have time to get every single petrol station, diesel, and test it. But after this test, we're not saying there's not going to be another one that just uses the basic fuels. If it goes to plan and it's pretty quick and easy to do, we'll get some more and do them based on the feedback that we get from this one. But I think this one's going to be the easiest way of doing it and comparing things together. So then there will be a second part of this, definitely, with the full-blown race diesels. Now they and additives and stuff like that, they get expensive. So this is going to be kept to what people mainly want to see, and then the next step will be other people. I've not even got the race diesels yet, so I'm not going to even mess about with that. We'll see how popular this video is first, because once you start spending 200 quid for 20 litres of fuel, it does start getting a bit expensive. And I've tried the GTL before, and it made no difference to power at all, and it were expensive. Whether it changed smoke output, I'm not too sure. It went onto Rosen, and that was smoky anyway. So we'll see. But we have got stuff like this, which you can see. We've got that. We've got some methanol, which people are saying stick that in the fuel. I'm not sure that's the best idea in the common rail engine, but we'll see. 2-stroke oil. We'll flash up a link, and that'll be in the description, to quite an interesting video about 2-stroke oil. Now, I think if you're putting methanol in, you're probably going to need to put 2-stroke oil in. So, not going to rule that out completely, but it's not going to happen on this car. I wouldn't have said the 2-stroke and the methanol. I'm not too sure about that. Then I have got one of the additives, but again, it's mainly got the ethyl nitrate, ex-ethyl nitrate in, so not too sure if we're good. We'll test it and see. And then this seemed to come up a lot in the comments, diptane or deeptane or whatever, diptane, whatever you want to call it. And that's not ridiculously expensive. I think that's like 11 quid or whatever it is for that, and that supposedly does 200 litres. So maybe we'll try that if this test goes to plan, because that'll be a quick one just to stick in them fuels as well. But we'll see. It could complicate things a little bit. Let's see what happens. This is going to be a long video to shoot. Hopefully not a long video to watch, but we'll see. So the Tesco fuel 151.9 today. Let's get some of that. So just at Shell 154 here for fuel, so not that much difference. See how much the V-Power diesel is there. Look at pump for that. 179. Remember to get the can out of the boot of the car. It's nearly £36 V-Power. Let's see what normal is. Normal diesel. So I got a bit excited and put 0.242 much in, but nearly a £5 difference there.
We've got a controlled amount of fuel, 5 litres. We put 5 ml of this in, got a little syringe, and put it in there, purge it, so we're going to like purge probably like a litre through to empty the fuel filter, the fuel pipes, the lines, all that lot. Then it should be a good test. Pretty much.
Scientific.
Scientific. Oh, it's full syringe.
Oh,
What? Back there. Nice and full. Oh, there we go. That's the worst syringe in the world.
mad to think that that little 5 ml
Could make another 500 horsepower.
makes a big difference. Or makes any difference at all.
Might do. Might not, but time will tell.
We shall see. It'll be a miracle if it does anything.
So, the day has come. So I've been out and got the fuels, done what we need to do. We'll talk about the prices and everything probably nearer to the end when we're summarising, I think. But yeah, some of the testing's already happened. We're just trying to get the test method exact. I think we've pretty much got it nailed. The opacity meter wouldn't work how we wanted it to, so we've got a bit of a novel solution going on for that. So we'll try and sort of summarise that as well. Got the cylinder pressure monitoring on, which you can see. We're just going onto one cylinder at the minute, so that's a glow plug going in there. It's a little box, and that's all happening there. So we'll put a clip of what that looks like when it's running. So we've tested the Tesco fuel with a EHN 99 in, so we know what that does. The next test, it doesn't really matter what order, but we've just got some of this fuel box fuel out, and if you have a look in there, it looks like red diesel. So yeah, maybe if you get pulled over with this stuff, you might get yourself in trouble, even though you're running what, as far as I'm concerned, is a road legal fuel. But anyway, that's that. People were asking us at red diesel test, but not yet. So we're just going to keep running through. We'll do all the tests. We're going to record a lot of stuff, but if we put it all in, it'll be very boring. But if people got see any errors in his methodology, just because it ain't being filmed on YouTube, doesn't mean it ain't happened, but you can ask away as much as you want, and we'll put it in the comments. So yeah, we'll keep working his way through, see what happens. So, as you can see, Tom's been pretty busy today. It took a little bit of time, doing 3 runs on every one. Started out at 307 horsepower this morning, and then we've gone all the way back around to the same tune we started this morning. We've got 313 horsepower. So, that just shows you how much things are evolving through the day. Now, the data won't have changed like that. I think the big thing is the tyres. They seem to get a little bit warm. I've been trying to control it as best we can, but you just can't. The pressures are right, but everything else, it is what it is. So we'll look at, these are all the runs that we've done. We've not got rid of any or anything like that, but we will go through, get an average, we'll look at the best ones, and we'll do that not in the dyno room, I think. Maybe we might get it on a big computer at some point, I don't know. We'll see. But let's go through all the data, and then we'll come back and see what difference, if any, this has all made. So, I've got a massive headache from looking at numbers. So, been looking in the BDN software and having a little play, and I thought probably better to pull things out and put it into Excel. So then, basically, I don't get this out in one go. Each one of these is a separate spreadsheet, which is a little bit annoying, so we need to sort that out. But then what I've done, I've gone through the run and chopped off the bit before full throttle and chopped off the bit once the throttle's been let off, just so that the averages were correct. And that's this column across here. So each one of these is a different, each 3 columns is a different fuel log, and then I've averaged them. So this is normal diesel at the start, and then Shell V-Power diesel, because they were the biggest difference. The averages slightly different, but not a lot. And then I went to the fuel that we did at the start, at the end of the day. That looked like this on the dyno, which if we'd have done the normal diesel and then the V-Power diesel, you'd say this is 7 horsepower more from the Shell diesel V-Power. But then we just run the same diesel as the morning. There we go. But if you look, we've gone from 11 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night. So the tyres will be different, the fuel will be warmer, the dyno will be in different temperature. All of that does get taken into account, but still there's discrepancies there. The dyno can't calculate everything, and our dyno don't calculate the coast down. So a hub dyno would take that out of the equation, but again, it's not perfect. So if we wouldn't have gone all the way around and back again, we'd have had some skewed data here. So power, torque, I'd say each one of them runs. If we just left it on the dyno and didn't do anything with it and did it later on, that's the difference we'd be expecting, a few horsepower. Every now and again you get it where it's just the same every time, but very rarely, especially when you've got the sticky tyres and stuff like that. So anyway, forgetting about that. Power, torque, I'd say it's exactly the same. You tell me if you think otherwise. Air to fuel ratio, quite noisy for some reason. I think the sensor's on its way out because it used to give us quite nice flat curves or flat lines, or there's something going on there. But to me, looking at them, you know, if you pick out the purple and the red one, they're both just sort of following each other. The fuel one's definitely not that erratic. Anyway, so that's how. Forget about the dyno stuff now. So back to the results, pretty similar in the horsepower torque. Air to fuel ratio, as you saw, obviously it weren't the best way of doing it. I like to have had the opacity meter, but we never got it working. That was pretty much the same. Noise, pretty much the same. Say from one to the other, half a decibel, but that's not logging it and averaging it. That's just literally what you see on the screen. So then we've got the peak cylinder pressures that we've looked at through the data quickly, and they're all very, very similar. 231 in the morning, 227 in the afternoon, and a bit in between there. And then when I've gone to the extremes and averaged them, like I said, the last few runs, 195.9, 195.3. So these are different, but then in the morning at 199.3, but that yielded less power. So more cylinder pressure doesn't equal more power, which in theory it probably should. So that's telling you that the dyno's doing a bit of summer. And then IMEP, that is pretty much the same again. We've averaged them out, very similar. I'm pretty much only looking at the last 2 runs now anyway, but very, very similar. Mean fuel burn 50, so this is telling you when 50% of the fuel's burned, and it's very similar again. And then the average over the run, 17.7, so it's exactly the same. So if they make the same power, make the same noise, make the same torque, making the same cylinder pressures, the only other thing that we can't sort of log, quantify in this test, so again, choose your fuel based on whatever you want, we can't measure exactly what it do to the economy, but looking at this, no difference whatsoever. Obviously, the carbon build-up will be different between any fuel, even on a given day. How you're driving it, everything makes a difference to how much carbon build-up there is. Obviously, absolutely gunning your engine all the time. We take our engines apart and there's not much carbon anyway. It's all been on fire and come out the exhaust. And obviously the wear and tear on the fuel system. But if it puts everybody at ease, we run our race cars on the cheapest fuel, running 2700 bar fuel pressure, and we've had no fuel issues whatsoever, no scoring of the fuel pumps, no injectors seizing up, and we're revving it to 6,000 RPM as well. So I'd say we've pretty much covered most of that stuff. So the other thing, I don't think we mentioned it previously in the video. If we have, sorry, but it's here again. is the cost. Obviously, per litre, the cheapest being the supermarket at 152, Shell being 155, and then the V-Power, that's £1.80 or 179.9 per litre. So if you look at what difference that'd make to the tank from the cheapest to the Shell V-Power, you're looking at £14 per tank difference. So if it's making no difference to your economy or anything like that, you're just paying Shell Oil Corporation more money for something that does the same job. So the other outlier in all this, obviously we put the additive in. It doesn't cost a lot per litre to put that in, but literally made very little difference. Again, the wear and stuff, people say it makes a difference. So if you really feel like you want to look after your car, put something like that in. But this EHN99 is what most of these additives have got in. So anyway, then there's the Green D fuel box, which I looked at the box after we'd bought it, after we'd used it, and it had got pictures like diggers and cement mixers on. So I think we probably unintentionally bought the wrong one. I'm sure you can get one that's not red anyway, but that's going to make absolutely no difference. We paid £36 for that, but that was probably when we first talked about this video a year ago, something like that, which works out at £1.84 a litre, which when things went up to £2 a litre were cheap, but now it's looking like a 20 litre box of that is like 60 quid, which is going to be £3 a litre, so a lot more than them. So anyway, I think this is the end of the video. Hopefully Adam can make it less boring, hopefully. But I'm hoping this puts it to bed. The comments were just ridiculous. The next thing that we are going to do, if we get a chance, and if I want to spend all the money on them, we've got some racing diesel additives which are not made for road use, and there are some sort of racing diesels that you can buy as well, diesel fuels. So we might try them. I hope they don't work because they're that expensive, but if they make things... The thing for what we're doing, it's not going to make any difference to the power to weight championship we're in, because if we put in a more expensive fuel in, we're just going to have to turn the power down and just pay more money to go racing. So, but it will help us for like the Arosa and stuff like that. So, if anybody's got any fancy fuel blends they want us to try that they've used in a common rail diesel, let us know. If they've got any fancy fuel blends that they've tried in old rotary pumps and PDs, it's not going to really apply to what we want to do for the testing, but we can put it in. We've got a scrapper that we're going to put on the dyno at some point, trying that. So anyway, thank you very much. Let us know if you agree or disagree in the comments. If you disagree, I'll give you a thumbs down, because I think we're right. But yeah, otherwise you'll get a thumbs up and a heart. Thank you.